How to identify the Iranian Alvand-Class frigates. Okay, let's look at the specifications or the common features of the Alvand-Class frigates. Displacement 1100 tons or 1540 tons full load. Length 94.5 meters or 310 feet. Beam 11.07 meters or 36 feet 3 inches. Draft 3.25 meters or 10.7 feet. Speed 17 knots, that's 31 k's an hour on diesels, or 39 knots, 72 k's an hour with gas turbines. That's pretty fast, 39 knots, that's booking it. Range 5,000 nautical miles or 9,000 k's at 15 knots or 28 kilometers an hour. Complement 125 to 146. Armament 4 C802 anti-ship missiles. 1 4.5 inch 140mm Mark 8 gun. 1 twin 35mm or 1.4 inch AA guns. That is one twin. And 1 twin 35mm 1.4 inch AA guns and a single turret. We have here 81mm 3 inch mortars along with other light weapons such as heavy machine guns and that kind of thing. And 2 sets of triple 12.75 inch or 324mm lightweight torpedoes. Torpedo tubes, I should say. I know that many people, judging by the Alvand-Class size, would consider this ship more of a corvette than a frigate. However, for the sake of this episode, we shall consider it a frigate. And now let us continue. Built by Vosper Thornycroft of the United Kingdom as the Saam class, the frigates went through a name change after the 1979 Iran Revolution. Renamed the Alvand-Class. Now, Alvand-Class, these ships were actually renamed after mountains in Iran. The 4 ships, now 3, are based on the Vosper Type 5 class. So, of course, there are now only 3. One was sunk during Operation Praying Mantis in 1988 during the Iran-Iraq War. The ships are not large by modern standards. However, considering the confines of the Persian Gulf, their relatively small size allows them a flexibility of movement unavailable to larger vessels. Originally, these ships were armed with one Vickers 4.5 inch 114mm, that is, Mark 8 main gun on the bow. These guns had a rate of fire of around 25 rounds per minute and a range of 12 miles or 22 k's. The ship also sported lighter weapons such as 20mm heavy machine guns and also 81mm mortars. In the anti-submarine warfare role, that is ASuW, each ship carried one Limbo Mark 10 mortar and 2 triple 12.75 inch torpedo tubes. And when I say 12.75 inch torpedo tubes, I mean 324mm torpedo tubes, which is lightweight. So it had 2 sets of 3. Now with the Limbo mortar, it's quite a neat system. And what it was 3 tubes, one behind the other. And when the Limbo was put into firing position and it actually fired, it fired a depth charge out to a range of around about 1,000 yards or 1,000 meters. For the Alvand-Class, the primary anti-ship weapon of the time was the Sea Killer missile, which was an Italian system, while the major anti-aircraft system at the time was the British Sea Cat, and the Sea Cat was a short-range system. However, weapon systems were either updated or replaced. As an example, the Chinese C802 or YJ-2 series cruise missile has replaced the Sea Killer. I believe the Limbo mortars may now have also been replaced. I am not 100% sure of this, but to be quite honest, I am about 97.999% sure. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, Iran took on the United States Navy, which was escorting US-flagged Kuwaiti oil tankers. In 1988, an Iranian sea mine had exploded against the frigate USS Roberts. The Roberts returned to the United States for repairs. The United States retaliated against Iran during Operation Praying Mantis and sank the Saam. Now, propulsion for these ships is provided by 2 Paxman Ventura cruising diesels, and for sprint speed we have 2 Rolls-Royce Olympus gas turbines. Today these ships continue to serve Iran. Lately they have been in service in the Syrian war and during patrols in the Persian Gulf. While the ships are starting to age compared with those of their neighbours, the vessels continue to serve Iran well. Okay, let's look at the ID features. Main mast is enclosed. It is located approximately midships on top of the superstructure, as you can see in that yellow oval. The lower half of the mast is enclosed. The top part part of the mast is of the pole type. I said mast type there, I meant to say pole type. We also have a squat aft mast with a search radar on top, and that's in the red oval, and that aft mast is located slightly forward of the funnel or stack, and we have a weapons director in front of the main mast, as you can see with that blue arrow pointing to it. And this ship has a single gun turret forward, just aft of the forecastle and forward of the bridge, as you can see in that yellow oval, and that of course is the 4.5 inch gun. And in the red oval at the stern of the ship we have one twin 35mm 1.4 inch AA guns, and we also have in the yellow oval C-802 anti-ship missile launchers. Be careful, tube launchers are easy to remove. Of course makes them the less than ideal ID features in my opinion. And here we have an early picture of the Alvand-Class. The Limbo mortars are visible in this picture, that is in that red circle there. Note that these are now removed, I believe, on all ships. We also here in this picture can see what I believe is the Sea Killer Saam, and of course that has been removed too on all ships as far as I know. And again, an early picture of Alvand-Class. The Limbo mortars are visible in this picture. You see it, you can make out them there barely in the red circle, those three little arms there sticking up, those three little lines. Note that these are now removed, I believe, on all ships, and the Sea Killer Saam once again, I believe, and also removed as far as I know. And let's start looking at the superstructure on these ships. Notice that the bridge windows angle outward slightly, as you can just make out there in that red oval. And the superstructure starts behind the main gun. It rises up and blends with the hull, then flattens to the bridge. It rises up to the bridge, flat to the weapons director on top of the bridge. It rises slightly, then flat to just after the main mast, then steps down. It flattens out, then rises up to just in front of the aft mast, straightens out, and rises to and includes the funnel or stack. The funnel top slopes down, and the back of the funnel slopes to the deck, then flattens out and steps down to the quarterdeck. Just follow those red lines there, you'll see what I mean. And a single funnel is rounded at the front and sides, kind of a teardrop shaped at the top, and the rear of the funnel is thinner than the front. From the front, the lower part of the superstructure that blends with the hull stretches from one side of the ship to the other, almost partly an island superstructure. It then angles downward and outward, and you can see that if you follow those yellow lines there. And looking at the bow, we can see that the front of the hull has a slightly curved clipper style bow, and you can see that if you follow that yellow line. And as a point of interest, note the antenna fitted to the ship in this photo, and that's in that red oval there. I'm not sure what it's for. I don't know if it's an antenna or some kind of sighting apparatus. I have no idea. Maybe it's a flare of some description, I don't know. If anybody does know, please let me know. Okay, looking at the hull. The hull slopes slightly from the bow to the superstructure, as you can see if you follow that yellow arrow. The hull blends with the superstructure and slopes down to the quarterdeck a little after the stack. The stern angles inward slightly, and you can see all of that if you follow those yellow arrows. And looking at the stern is enclosed and flat. Here we can see a pair of 20mm cannon in front of the bridge, one on each side of the ship. Be careful about using small weapons such as these as identification features, as they can be easily removed. Notice the shape of the ship. From a distance, the hull and superstructure, masts and weapons may all appear as though they are one block. This is why it is important to notice the main non-removable features on ships. Remember, when a radar spins or the gun turret traverses, the shape of the silhouette will change. Now, silhouettes are a great way to learn identification and recognition. In this photo, even though it is a silhouette, we can still ID or identify the ship due to 1. The number and shape of the masts, 2. The basic shape of the superstructure, 3. The position and shape of the stack on the superstructure, 4. The shape of the bow, 5. The squared and angled stern or transom. So once again, I am going to start incorporating more silhouettes into these recognition episodes. I'm telling you right now, when it comes to identification and recognition training, silhouettes will certainly sort the men from the boys. If you know silhouettes, if you can identify aircraft or armored vehicles or ships with silhouettes, then you are truly awesome. Okay, note the differences between these two ship classes. We have the Alvand in the foreground and the Moj in the background. Now the Moj, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, is a further development of the Alvand class.